we're not recording. Here we go.
Here we go. We're live.
Are we live?
We're
Yes,
live.
live.
And
We
wait.
were.
We're not from New York, though. I just want to throw that in there while you do the intro.
Yeah.
We're not
Well,
in New York.
we were going to talk to Rob Vega today, but his management team said he was knackered after doing a 3 hour show. So we're not really quite sure who or what or why is going to truck up today. But yeah, it's South Africa probably. What else did we touch upon last time? We got a bit of France in, and no doubt we'll end up talking about that bloody city somewhere on the east coast of the US of A. Anyway,
Listen,
here we are. Here we are.
Mr. Roll here, Roald Woods, aka Vega, Mr.
Yes.
World Voice Guy, loves New York City. We spent 2 hours on the phone yesterday discussing how the greatest city in the world is the greatest city in the world. And I should have recorded that because that was a beauty, as we like to say. So don't be knocking our city because you're in that little place where you put your fingers in dikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tremendous.
This is going to be a politically correct show for you people that are listening. Good luck.
I thought that happened in several. I thought that happened in several districts of New York. But there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's only you only put your finger in dikes in the East Village. So yeah. So that's
preferably in a bodega.
So what about you, Mr. Vega? Are you up for putting your finger in a few dikes today, or?
I'd rather not. I'll be honest. Not really into.
Not a lot of
that.
dikes in South Africa.
Sure. I'm really dangerous territory wandering into there, but sure, okay.
Yeah, let's leave. We're gonna go out of that territory, and
that is like wow, woo, bad.
Hey, I mean they're called levies in the US. I was just wondering where if
levies. All right.
If you have a water problem, or
we don't
if you did, would you put your finger in the levee? That's the burning question of the day.
Actually, we do have a water problem. That's funny because Steve and I were talking about this yesterday. We've got zero leadership.
That's the medical thing, isn't it? That's the medical thing.
We've got no. The country has plenty of water. When you say we, the country, tons of water. All the dams are full. Seriously, no leadership. Taps are dry. Not quite, but getting there. So we do have a water problem. Yeah? We do have a water problem. That's true. Yeah. We do.
We talked about that yesterday, and we were like, crazy. What about the water? What about this? What about that? So we're just like, nope.
Okay, so we're doing this. Well, what we were saying...
Let's talk. We could talk about whatever we'd like.
Dave, we were alluding to the fact that, I've left this country twice. I might leave it again. I'm not sure. I don't know. I wasn't born here, but I grew up here, and I feel a strong connection to it. And it's got so much, it sounds like a cliche, but it has the proverbial potential, and there is so much that can be done. It's literally got these conduits of resources that run through the continent. It's wonderful. The weather's fantastic. It's got space, you name it. Very easy life. No leadership, zero, and it's very frustrating. So that's where we were yesterday, talking about how so much could be done. But there just isn't really the political will just isn't here. I'm not sure.
Are you talking about South Africa or are you talking about the UK at the moment?
Oh, no, I'm talking about South Africa. The UK is another story. Yeah, that's another story. Yeah. Okay. That's quite funny too. In fact, we alluded to that. Look, it is what it is.
Did you know that Tusk was the first Asian prime minister? Did you see that article in the Financial Times where they said Tusk was the first Asian prime minister Britain's ever had? I'm like, I didn't know she was Asian.
Liz Truss.
That's what it just said.
No,
that's what it said.
Well, Richie Sunak is just
Sunak.
He's in.
Okay.
He's
the first one.
Qualify, I guess.
He's up for it.
I heard he's in. I heard our news
the guy?
department guy said he's got the votes, he's in. So I hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
looks like he's in.
Boris said he had the votes and he was out. So
no, Boris said he dropped out. He dropped out the other day because he's like, he doesn't want to do it.
No, he said he had the votes, but it was a more noble thing for him not to come back and be banned.
Yeah, no worries.
Then to stay on and be prime minister. There you go.
In 45 days, he's got another shot at it, so that's fine.
That's just right, because this guy will leave too. So they all leave.
Exactly. He'll screw up and then he'll leave, and I don't know. There we go. See, what's just happened now is it led us to what we were talking about the other day. See, we're right now we've started a power outage. I have backup, so that's okay. I hope it'll last.
Is that for
Gosh,
your
I hope it
career, or
lasts.
are you talking about you have backup for your career, or for
Power
oh,
outage.
hey,
Yes.
So,
Dave, try
but
to keep up, mate.
yeah,
Jeez,
he's
man.
old. He's what he says, old Dave, old fart. I mean, that's
yeah.
why. So here we'll do a wide
Well,
shot. Tell you
I
what he
had to
can say.
I
Then
had to
there you
put
go.
my name on there because in which
You
case,
forget who he is. Yeah,
well,
he forgets who he is.
perhaps Mr. Vega didn't know who I was. I mean, it's been a long time since he pulled my chain.
Afraid
So.
I do know who you are, Dave, all too well.
Yes,
I
David. We all
am
know.
very
We
cognizant
all
of
know.
who you are.
Yes, we all know
Yeah.
who you are.
Anyway,
So-
you started off about there was the gospel according to I wasn't born here, but it's a great country to live in,
Yeah, it is a good.
and
It
then you
is a
were
good
rudely
place.
interrupted by me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's how
Story
it
of your
goes.
life.
That's it. But it was sort of following on from what I mean. Steve and I were talking about something completely different yesterday, and then we never
Oh,
spoke about that.
you speak
We got
without
onto
me. Then.
this. Hmm?
You speak without me.
Yeah,
that
I
what
was
you're
We
cheating
do.
on you. We were
Oh.
cheating
And we
on
speak, and just so you know, we speak about you as
you.
well.
We do.
So yeah. So
Well, that's
Exactly.
yeah. Well, what can I say? What can I say?
Yeah, but
I'm a fortunate man.
oh dear. All right. Okay.
you're always in our thoughts, David. That's all you have to know.
Yeah, we were just going on about some of the leadership issues and the problems that we have, and how politicians, certainly in this country, have no idea what economics is about. None of them have run a business. None of them understand economic growth. And then also we've got expats from this country who have worked in the US and have done really well, that are back in South Africa trying to drum up this mysterious opposition which we need to unseat the government, not because there's nothing personal about it, but they just really have no clue. They really don't. They don't understand what they're doing. The country has now been liberated. Thank you for your service, but now it's time to have people who know what they're doing, and this lot don't. And there's a lot of corruption. In fact, the president here today, in fact, made this big speech about how he thinks corruption is the number one problem and he's going to root it out. But it's always they're going to, but they never do. No one's in prison. There's no follow-up, nothing. And
Are you being paid by the South African prison authority then, or to get people in? You get paid a rand every time they come through the front door?
But wait, before you answer that question, there was an he's drinking heavily. There was a article.
No,
in the financial,
he seemed to be stimulating the fact that more people should be in jail. But
there's an article today in the Financial Times that spoke about I forgot who it was, but name begins with an R. I guess he's the head of the corruption bureau there or something. It was a whole big thing today in the Financial Times.
Zondo is the guy who's writing the report. Ramaphosa is the president.
That's the guy. Ramaphosa is the one who said he's putting everybody.
Well, he's
going to
the
have
president.
A corruption thing. Okay.
He's the president.
Okay. So he made a big thing about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about it. I mean, Richard Quest was at Davos, and one of our journalists was over there talking to him, saying, "What do you think of, how do you feel about South Africa and so forth?" And he said to Richard, Dave, Bruce was the guy's name, called Michael, John, whatever, said to him, everybody is really keen on getting down there and involved. They can see the possibilities, but they're not going to put money in if it's not going to come back and it's going to get stolen, or they don't know what's happening to it. That just doesn't make any sense. And there's too many politicians involved in matters of economics. And that is the problem. They need to get out the way and let people who know what they're doing with regard to money, investment, economic growth, get involved. Stop with the politics. Stop with the blaming of the past. We need to make money. Stop blaming people. That's really... And back to you, Dave.
Well, I've stopped blaming you as well, Roald.
Thank you.
And I'd
My father would be very grateful.
And I'd like to make some money, but every time Stephen gets $1, he doesn't share it with me. So it's
New York can only pay.
It's going to be a difficult Christmas.
He doesn't know if he's going to get it back.
Yeah. Well, here's the good thing,
he won't.
David.
He
That's
won't.
right.
He
Here's
won't
a good
get it
thing.
back.
I'm Jewish, so we do Hanukkah. So Christmas means nothing to me, and without my people, you don't have Christmas. So you're welcome. Anyway,
That's.
It's gonna.
I would. Yeah. You know. What can I say?
We're gonna go down. We can go down We're gonna go down a lot of rabbit holes today for everybody. And what's
Well,
really cool is
as long
we
as
do
they're
this
all
show for
kosher,
us.
we're all right, I think.
That's as long as they're all kosher.
Yeah.
So what's going on that we want to discuss, guys? We've got
come on.
We've got Tuss resigning in 42 days or 45 days. You got the new guy,
She's
apparently the first
gone.
Asian.
She's gone.
Right? No, I'm saying she was only in office for 42 or 45 days. You got the new Asian prime minister in the UK, which is big news. You got Xi, who just third term as the premier of China, which Mao Zedong didn't want, and Deng Xiaoping tried to make it that it wouldn't happen. You got Putin threatening to go nuclear. We got Biden dribbling on himself because he's not Ronald Reagan, but he's doing okay. You got Ron DeSantis. It looks like he's going to be the Republican nominee for president. What else do we have going on? I mean, other than that, everything's great. The world's a wonderful place.
It just seems like a normal day at the zoo to me.
Yeah, basically. So we could touch on anything.
There is something really important, which I learned today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water in South Africa, but no water in the taps. You know,
not much.
You know, Oh, sorry, not much water. Yeah.
Not much.
Stephen, you didn't mention that when you were going through all the troubles just now.
No, that's very true. Well, because we have water, we're good. So it's global warming, and when the Arctic melts, and all the ice flows down and floods everything, there'll be tons of water. So I'm not worried about that.
Well, we're practicing to swim here already, so.
I want to point out a reality.
But we've got dikes all around us, so that's a lot.
There you go.
That's true.
I must point out a reality to that power outage I mentioned.
Right.
It's
going to cut you off very shortly.
Well, the way I keep it going is I need to be somewhere to turn something on. So I'm just hoping that we last, because we've got two types of power backup here. The one is batteries and the other is a generator. Right now we are chatting on batteries. So hopefully
do you need to go off
last. No, it's fine. If I suddenly go, then you know what's happened. That's what it is.
Well, I have to take a tablet after that happens to me.
But
it's very nervous.
All these experts, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought you were sort of just pedaling very hard onto your desk to try and keep the lights on. You know, it's like.
No, not really. No, not sufficiently qualified to do that, I'm afraid. And it wouldn't help. You'd have to pedal really fast, and then I wouldn't be able to speak. So that's not going to happen. But listen, one of the things that Steve and I got onto also, because I thought we had a great conversation. We should have.
Oh yeah, just remind me of the fact that I wasn't part of it.
Yes, Dave, you weren't part of it.
You weren't there, Dave. Sorry, it was an impromptu. Roll said, "Do you have a few minutes?" I'm like, "Call."
Yeah,
we got on Zoom.
Great.
Yeah. And this is impromptu. This is impromptu. This is sort of a love fest again from you two guys talking about how wonderful it was to talk to each other. And now here we are. It's called the Two Old Farts. Not like two old farts and a guy with no water in his taps. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not the name of the show, Stephen.
Okay, I know.
Right.
Just to let everybody know before we go on what we spoke about yesterday, Kimchi Chick, aka Rachel Parks, is going to be with all of us, not live. Maybe we'll do it live next Tuesday, and we're going to talk about K-pop. And she gave us an education today all about K-pop. So we are now far from experts, but at least now when she talks, and she may bring some of her girlfriends who got her into K-pop. So it's next week's show with you and them is going to be a big K-pop show.
Great. My daughter's fully into K-pop, so
we told her that.
Yeah.
So
we can chat. Did you mention Stray Kids and all that?
I did. I called them stray cats, stray dogs, and then they finally corrected me. Yeah, I know.
Oh, good.
But evidently, nobody can remember the Stray Cats, but I thought they were pretty good. They came over from the US of A, and
you remember the Stray Cats?
Conquered the UK and Holland with that rockabilly sound.
Yeah, they do that, and then the head Stray Cat guy now does big band music.
Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a group. It's a musical group.
It's a musical group. You can Google it, but you probably had to have enough electricity. You don't have enough electricity to Google.
No, dude.
I'm good.
Literally, it was in the 90s, in the early 2000s.
Oh, that's cold.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We'll send you a link. Anyway.
Yeah.
What were you going to say that we spoke about yesterday?
We could put a link under here, I think. Yes. Let's hear you two repeat a conversation I wasn't part of yesterday. That would be
fantastic.
That'd be really
we were just There's all these idiots that are running the asylum right now. These people who think they're experts on all sorts of things, foreign policy and so forth, and
So
the way they.
should the world be run by DJs then? Is that what you're trying to
No,
say?
not at all. We're trying to fix the problem, not make it worse. So no, it's this business where we judge people according to, with modern day standards, historical figures. I think we even spoke about
The
some of
statues
the
being
historic figures and the way the way they did things and what they said and what they owned and where they were at. And these days they just literally want to cancel all these people and remove them from the historical books, and that's just really what got us going, Dave. We were just alluding to the fact that you can't possibly judge historical figures with modern day values and standards. It just won't work. I mean, and Steve said, wait 500 years from now, they're going to think we're a bunch of morons.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, you remember what they did in 2022? I can't believe they did that. They had things like jobs and money, and we don't have jobs and money. We're just one big world where people do the thing that they're good at, and they just give that to other people. How could you possibly pay people? Where's their value system? I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Or the politically incorrectness of it all. And I think that was part of what we were discussing. It was sort of like,
well, as I wasn't part of that conversation, I'm not really interested in listening to you two talk about it again. So I'm going to say something. So
you can jump right in. Feel free.
What I was going to say is, what do you feel about chucking soup over pieces of art? And today I heard
mashed
potato, and we've also seen paint put over cars. At I think the Paris car show and the dealership.
Well, let me answer that.
How's that? Because it kind of relates to what you were saying about the whole woke thing.
Let me answer that. Okay, first of all, the mashed potato thing. Apparently, there was a sheet of glass over the painting, so nothing.
As was the soup.
They really didn't do anything. I'll tell you what I do have a problem with, and I heard this. I think this happened somewhere in the UK yesterday or the day before. These guys mounted a protest on one of the highways and blocked everything, and there were accidents, and I believe someone was killed. That I have a big problem with. Yeah. There you go. That is a problem for me. If you want to protest something, make sure you're protesting to the right people with the right message and in the right way. Causing mayhem and violence is not the way you're going to get people to listen to you and respect your point of view.
Is that the same thing as this woke thing that you were talking about then with Steve? Let's be a little bit serious now. But
kind of. It's a little different. What we spoke about yesterday. One of the things we were just saying, because we all go off on our tangents. I was like, they took somewhere in America, they took the statue of Lincoln down for whatever reason, or they take the statue of this down, or they take a statue of that down. And my thing is like, for their time, they were whatever they were. I'm not saying we want to go back to that, which we kind of are. But the thing is like, if you have a statue of someone, and it's Robert E. Lee, or it's this person or that, leave it. It's okay. Because what we're doing now, what we're doing now is we're making history, not history. We're making it history. And we're making it politically correct. That's not history. And like fake. Columbus, and Columbus was a terrible person, but in his time, he wasn't a terrible person. He did what he had to do. So if you look at all of that and you start changing it so everyone feels better about themselves, then, what are we going to teach kids in school? You learn absolutely nothing. You learn how to okay, if you don't like something, just rewrite it. That's not the way the world works.
No, I would agree with you on there. And we've sort of found what I think to be a comfortable compromise. That almost sounds like an oxymoron, but what they're doing is they're removing objects of slavery, things that are no longer considered to be nice in the world that we live in, and they're putting them into museums. So they're taking down all these statues, they're putting them in museums, and they're putting in and around that particular object the plus and minus aspects of it. So what you were saying about they are people of their times. They were doing whatever they were doing, but it's been removed from its place on the town square and placed here because of this reason. How does that sit with you guys? Is that something you could live with?
No, I want it. If it's in the town square, leave it in the friggin' town square. I mean, unless you're Saddam Hussein, you're pulling your statue down because you're a dictator. I got why you're doing that, right? It's a tribute to
Yeah, but
yourself.
other people might consider the Confederate leaders to be dictators,
Too
or
bad, but that was That's our history. Like, and there's a constitution, and people can express themselves. And what's happening in America right now is like
But did the Iraqis not feel that it was their constitution to leave it up and their history when they
the
pulled it?
Iraqis are the ones who yanked it down because he was a
Yeah, they
dictator
did.
killing his people. That's not
Yeah.
we didn't help in that respect. They did. That was them because they're like, you killed all our people. Robert E. Lee fought for what he thought was correct, and Grant fought for what he thought was correct. Like, I'm from New York, so we know what side I'm on. So I'm okay with Robert E. Lee's statue being at the University of Virginia up there. So when these kids go, oh, that's horrible, it shouldn't be there. No, it should be, because you have to remember that we had a time of slavery, we had a time of this, we had a time of that. And this is something we said yesterday, is that most of the slaves that came from Africa, they were enslaved by people of color, or black people, if you will. And what most people in America, because they're stupid and don't read a book, don't think that. They think a bunch of white guys went over from, pick a country, probably Holland. No, a bunch of white guys went over from there.
They were the logistical partner.
I know, right? Or the Dutch West Indies Company, and read a book about that. But anyway, they went over there, and the white people captured all these black people, and they brought them to America. And no, it would be like, if you like yesterday, the Zulu tribe captured all of them pretty much and gave them to the white people to get whatever they got, and said, okay, bye-bye, because we are going to be the dominant, if you will, here in our continent. So the problem is that this all gets lost through history. So how do you teach somebody this could go wrong? It's like, what are you going to do with Auschwitz and Alcatraz? Auschwitz.
Dave, I think to answer your question, because there's two ways of looking at this. If there's a statue revering someone with some long diatribe as to what a wonderful person they are, you've got a point. Maybe, you've got a point there. They shouldn't be celebrated, but they can't be forgotten. That's the issue. You can't just erase things. You can put them in a slightly better context if you want, I suppose. If there was a gold statue of Adolf Hitler in the middle of Times Square, that would be a problem. I reckon that would be a bit of an issue. Okay, and with swastikas all over, that wouldn't go down well. But you can't forget the guy. You need to remember who he was, what he did, what he was a part of, and it needs to stay in people's memories. It has to stay in people's memories. We have to remember it. That's all I'm saying, and it depends how you do that. But
I
the
think
danger is
without Adolf Hitler, we wouldn't have the History Channel, so we have to be grateful.
And without Donald Trump, we might not have all this political discourse right now. So hey,
but what about South Africa?
Dave, hang on, before I answer the question, one thing I have to give Donald Trump credit for, and this is a fact, I mean this in all seriousness. I've never seen Americans talking so much about politics in my life. Everyone is like, what? And I mean, there's always been lots of conversations, but he has certainly, I have to give him that, he has certainly stirred things up. And that might be a good thing. I don't know. I'm trying to look at the good here. It may not be what you want to hear, but at least people are perhaps paying a bit more attention, because I will say, and maybe Steve can back me up on this, Democrats have been notoriously passive about voting. Notoriously passive. And this is one of the powerful things that Trump has. His base is strong. They will be there. You can bet your ass they will be there. They're going to make sure they're there on voting day. So what it means is, if the Democrats, if they want to do something about it, they need to make sure they show up and vote. And I have to say, the history of particularly the Democrats, and even Bill Maher says this, the Democrats over decades, they've been very lackadaisical about it. Right now, the Republicans in the US have got the power in terms of riling up their supporters. Trump's base is strong. They haven't changed. Biden's is all over the place. So quite frankly, I reckon if you had a vote in the States right now, I think Biden would be in trouble. That's just my opinion. But anyway.
I think you're 100%. I think you're 100% correct. And you're right. Bill Maher touches this all the time, that the Democrats are pussies and the Republicans are the bullies. And until you fight back, and it's great that they're trying to be above everybody and all this other stuff, but they're not. And so what's happening is you have all this discord, and it's like, you have people in Congress and the Senate that are Republicans. They don't know squat, and they say the dumbest things. They go, the election was, so they're causing it. And this goes back to knowing history. This is nothing more than the 1920s to the 1940s in Europe. And people don't see that. And if you don't see that, is one, you're an idiot. Two, you probably didn't read a history book. And three, you don't know history. And if you don't see that and you don't want to do something about that, you're screwed. Or let's be blunt, we're fucked, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the other thing we spoke about. You got Putin threatening to go nuclear in the Ukraine. Well, the reason he's probably not is because America and NATO. But if America's so screwed up, and if I'm Putin, I'm like, they're not going to do shit. And same, and NATO's not going to do anything. After I nuke the Ukraine, where am I going? I'm going to Poland. What am I doing? I'm going to follow the 1930s roadmap, and that's what this is becoming. And Xi, he's just buying time to attack Taiwan because we're not, I don't think, as a power today, have enough to have a war on two fronts, because that would be World War III, right? You'd have the war over in Europe, and you'd have a war in Asia.
I think it'll be on three fronts because the North Koreans are saber rattling as well.
But that's Asia. That would still be the same.
Yeah, but you've got a lot of American troops there now doing this. Doing all these training missions.
Right.
So and America has a commitment to the Korean peace of to the armistice,
right,
where they are. So you've got that. You've got Taiwan, and you've got NATO. Yeah. That's
but
kind of,
I don't think we as a country can do it. Stretched.
No.
We don't. And
the thing is, would you want to do it? I mean,
well, here's the problem.
Trump was quite obvious. He
loved the dictators. That's the problem. Trump was like, he loved Putin. He loved Xi. Listen, I think China's wonderful. I think Asia's a great place. Xi's buying his time. You have to remember, it's kind of what we said earlier. And when you read Chinese history books or Asian history books, they look at things in 1,000-year lineage. They don't look at things like we got to do something by Wednesday. So Putin's looking at it. I got to do it by Wednesday. Xi and his regime is like, we'll get to Taiwan. It could be tomorrow. It could be in 50 years. We'll get there. They're buying time. Russia's trying to do whatever. But if Russia sets off nuclear, right now they're just doing, I guess, scrape bombing like they did in World War II in the UK. So if Russia attacks the Ukraine with nuclear and we don't do anything, that's a bad sign globally. NATO then has to step. If NATO and the US don't do anything, or Germany, somebody, then if I'm the USSR, if you will, or if I'm Putin, I'm going from there to Poland to Hungary. I'm literally going to make this 1930s, 1920s, if you will, over again.
NATO's been very clear about it, Steve. In many respects, it suits both Putin and NATO to have the Ukraine stuck in between. Ukraine's not part of NATO. So he can bomb the crap out of that, and they're still not going to step in. If it goes half a meter into the Polish border or into the NATO countries,
right,
that's another ball game. And the problem is, of course, is how accurate are all these bombings and missiles and kamikaze drones. It just needs somebody not to program something quite right, and we could be off on World War III.
Oh, I think you're going to have you're having World War III, whether you like it or not, my friend.
Well, it's America versus the US as a proxy war in the Ukraine, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and if you're in the Ukraine, that's a scary place to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a very scary place to be. He's
bombing all the infrastructure now. He's trying to freeze them to death over the winter.
Yeah.
But it just seems to be that their resolve seems to get stronger by the day. The more the Russians try and bomb them out of an existence, the deeper they dig in.
Yeah, all I know is it's very dangerous. Nothing here is a good thing. Like this dialogue we're having is like a dialogue I would never want to ever have to have, but theoretically, we're in a very precarious situation, and it doesn't seem like anybody really cares.
Well, I was talking at the weekend to some people who had to guest in the
house.
Wait,
you were talking without us? Roll. What do you, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What the heck?
But these were people I liked. Cheers,
guys.
Yeah. The people at the weekend, the first thing I can remember, I think, at primary school was having these tests, and they said, well, when the alarm goes off, this eerie siren, you have to, either rush out of the classroom and stand in the schoolyard and be counted, or if that's not possible, the next thing to do for the nuclear attack is to get under the table, sit under the table. You'll be safe under the table.
Right.
And so, I think we discussed this before last time all three of us were together. So throughout my adult life, there's always been this fear of a nuclear war.
It sounds like a Frankie Goes to Hollywood song, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Relax,
you hear
don't do
the
it.
terror attack warning, you and your family must take cover at once. Remember that?
Yep.
Two Tribes. Remember that? 1980s. Yeah.
Sure,
We're
you
back
remember
there
that,
again.
but you don't remember the Stray Cats. That's awesome.
Ah, I'll look them up. Okay. I know who the Stray
Yeah,
Kids
it's because it had the word Hollywood in it, I think, or Frankie. That was easier for him to
That's
remember.
right.
Yeah.
But no,
Okay.
but if you think about it,
All
it's very true. I went to school in the 60s, the 1360s, but it was the duck and hide. They would show you the video of the bomb going off and then wiping out everything. And we'd all sit there going, so what duck and hide is going to do? Like, what the building's going to fall on me. How am I ducking and hiding? So it's terrible that 50, 60 years later, this is a dialogue you actually have to have. You know what I mean? It's like, but Neil Grayson was on Bill Maher, and he was saying that the hydrogen nuclear bomb they're going to use now is it blows up where it wants to, and then what you have to be worried about is this 60-mile sound shock that happens.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry about any of it. Like, you would think
No.
that over the last couple hundred years, we would be on this. And what are we fighting for? We're fighting for some land. Okay, why? Like, we're on the same planet. Or if you don't like this planet, go somewhere else.
Somebody else has got it and you want it.
Yeah, but that's a bad. We're not doing well as a planet. Like, I
So
always joke go ahead.
So can we all agree this is not a special military operation in the Ukraine
From Russia?
Well,
yes, that's. I'm just saying that's what he's passed it off as.
Yeah. No.
He's never used the word. He's never used the word war once to the people.
This is a full-scale attack, as far as I'm concerned.
Putin has said to the Russians, well, they're all fascists over there, and they're killing all the ethnic Russians, and they need to be supported.
Yep.
What I want to know is how is he explaining this to all the mothers in Russia? That's what I want to know.
Well, we haven't reached the point yet where there's been enough body bags.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of Russians that have been killed in that war.
It's not being seen. That's the thing. I mean, there's one of the turning points in
haven't come back. They don't have their sons. I mean, it doesn't matter what they've seen. They just know that the son has gone off to fight and he hasn't come back. And there's thousands.
Yeah, but a lot of them are being paid. Huh? So you get this sort of.
No, if you remember correctly, all these guys are going to Georgia now, the country, not the state, trying to escape the draft because they don't believe in it. They don't want to fight. There's riots in the streets.
Yeah. Hundreds of thousands of these guys.
Finland as well. They're trying.
Yeah. Finland, you name it. Wow.
Yeah. So
I will say, if you were talking about all the what's he going to do after Poland and what happens if he doesn't get stopped, I'm pretty sure he's got his eye on Finland because they haven't sorted that conversation out that goes back hundreds of years.
Yes,
and it seems like he's tapping into Peter the Great and what he was about, and he sees himself as Vladimir the Great, and he wants to reset all the boundaries. I think that's what he's about. But the question is, would he stop there? The thing is, we're not in Russia right now. I'm not a Russian. I have no idea what's going on there. But just from our perspective, it doesn't look like his motives seem to be pretty clear to the rest of the world. I don't think he realizes what he wants to do yet. And I think all these guys that keep falling out of windows when they tell him they don't like what he's doing, I think is kind of a problem. It's like 10 of them so far, right?
Yeah, they all keep falling out of the windows, and I'm like, well, there's a hint there. So if I'm in Russia, I'm not gonna. What would I say? Nothing. Why would I say anything? I don't want to.
Well, it's illegal. It's illegal to mention the word war. Anybody that's it's a 10-year imprisonment maximum.
Did you see him meeting with all his head honchos and his advisors? They had this little get together when they announced that they were annexing all these territories, these 4 areas in Ukraine. And there they were on stage. I think he was surrounded about 5 or 6 of these generals and commanders and leaders. And, it was ridiculous. I mean, some of these Russian guys are really big, 6'4", 6'5".
Yep.
They're big men. And here stands Pinocchio in amongst all of them. And I mean, it really was like take your kid to work day. I mean, there he was. He was this tiny little small Napoleon-like figure in the middle of these giant men. And I just thought, can't someone just turn around and go boom?
Yep.
Because don't they realize? I mean, yes, I understand they're all scared and stuff, but there's literally one little guy, this chap, this small little fellow right here, who is causing all of this. And Russians must be getting to the point. And in fact, I know they are, because one of the guys I train with is a Russian. He's a Russian chap. He's just come back, and he said that certainly the younger folks, sort of 35 below and so on, they done. They want out. They all going, and they reckon the feeling is. They reckon this is the end of Russia. I don't know if that's over dramatic or not, but that is what young Russians are thinking. And they want to leave. They want to go to Georgia. They want to go to Finland. They want to, I guess, probably they're going to request asylum to the US or wherever and get out. And they are leaving. He has lost the next generation. They are gone. So I don't know where Russia's headed. He can have all the territory he likes, but no one wants to be there. That's just what I'm sensing. Do you think he miscalculated, or he just doesn't care?
No, I think a little both. I think he doesn't care. I think he miscalculated. And, now that you're killing all your oligarchs, that own all these companies that you gave them. It's like if you're an oligarch, you're trying to get out, and they can't spend money, right? Because the world has locked up their money, their boats, their planes. So you have no support. So if I'm worth $30 billion and I've got apartments in New York and I've got my yacht and my private jets, and everybody's locked everything, and I can't do anything except Monaco, then what do I do? Where am I going to live? I'm going to live on a little 2-square island for the rest of my life. And that's literally what's happening, right? So at some point, when they speak up against them or say you shouldn't do this, and they fall out of a window, and it's like this guy fell out of a window, this guy fell off a bridge, this guy hit by a car 14 times. Some of that starts adding up, where people are like, maybe we shouldn't say anything. So they don't say anything, and Putin's like, look at me, look how good I am. Okay, good.
But Steve, this particular fellow that I'm telling you about, I mean, he lives here now. I think his wife is from here, so he lives here now. I think he's only been in the country about 4 or 5 years. They actually went back. Him and his wife went back recently. He's got some business in Moscow, which he's trying to get rid of.
Right.
He barely got out because he's about 34, draft and all that. He was like squarely in. They want to know why he was leaving.
Right.
But his mother-in-law, not his mother, his mother. Not his mother. His mother is Ukrainian. She lives in Ukraine.
Wow.
He's Russian.
Yeah.
The two countries are linked like this.
Yeah.
You've got sons that are in Ukraine, mothers in Russia, all over the place, and it's not like it's even a different country. They are almost. I'm not going to say Ukrainians are Russian and Russians are Ukrainian, but they're kind of the same people, aren't they? It's ridiculous.
Well, we're all kind of the same. We're all kind of the same people. It's just. It goes back to what we said. We come to a very point in our civilization where everyone's desensitized. If it doesn't pertain to them, they don't care. And like Reagan used that speech. If a threat came from outside our world, what people would do. I really wish a threat would come from outside. I'd love to see what we do. I would like people to say, instead of saying I'm U.S., I'm a Russian, I'm a this, just say we're an Earthling. Because at the end of the day, then it would be like, oh, okay, maybe we can actually do something. Because right now it's like, I want that. Like, okay, same with China. Why do you need Taiwan? Like, I mean, so they pissed you. Granted, they pissed you off 100 years ago. I got it, but let it go. Like, it's like it's okay. You're not losing face. No one really. The generation now doesn't know the history. It's only like G and like guys like our age that know the history. The kids today don't know. So what are we going to do? We're going to go and bomb and kill each other for some land. So. That's kind of like, I don't know. That's kind of to me like the dumbest thing on the planet. I don't understand it. I'm just, it's like we spoke about yesterday. If depending on what happens with the election here in 2024, we could have a civil war. But as I joked with Roald, I said, even when you're born in Texas, even at like a day old, they give you a gun. Do you want the Glock or do you want the Desert Eagle? And that's boy or girl. That's your choice. So every kid here from the age of like 2 and up is strapped. So,
Speaking of elections, Steve.
Yes.
Speaking of elections. Obviously, you've got the midterms coming up, and we've got elections coming up in 2024. And here, and now the UK have got another prime minister, which the people once again did not elect, which is interesting, extraordinary. Do you think this is actually a very serious question? Because my father used to he used to say this, but it's very difficult to say this in a positive way.
Right.
What about the merit in qualifying votes, in qualifying who gets to vote? I know it's dangerous territory. Let me explain. If you think of the world we live in, what we enjoy, television, radio, cars, inventions, and think of the minds and the people that created it, the businessmen that created the shops we go to and so on. Those are not ordinary people. They have created things for the rest of humanity. And then you get a situation in the UK where you had the Brexit vote, which people were entitled to vote whichever way they wanted. But the problem I had with that is they took a decision and gave it to people who were wholly unqualified to make that decision, who didn't have the perspective that they needed to make a proper decision. I'm not saying they weren't intelligent or unqualified, but they didn't know what was going on. And we know that because of the crap that came out of their mouths when they were discussing why they voted the way they voted. So
the other thing is, of course, is that most of us, including myself, who are still UK passport holders, which affects our immediate future. None of us were allowed to vote.
Well, the whole thing, the point I'm trying to make is that it just seems like there were a lot of, how can I say this delicately? I'm not going to say it delicately. There just seems to be a bunch of people who seriously have no idea what they're doing when they vote. None at all. Now, and it's not like they're just voting. They are steering a country somewhere. Right. It's a big decision. So do you think there's any, it's just not going to happen. I know this, obviously. But is there any, I don't know, validity or something to the idea that we should qualify who gets to vote? I'm not saying cut off all the stupid people, but in a way I'm saying cut off all the unqualified people because I don't know what they're doing.
Are you suggesting that, like there are some countries, I don't
take a test?
No, that you have to vote.
Like Australia, I think Australia is mandatory. You have to vote.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have to
vote.
There's
two streams. There's that. Either you make it mandatory, or if you want to cut off stupid people from voting, half the people in the Senate and the Congress you got to get rid of because they're idiots. They don't know history. They don't know that they know nothing, right? And they
say crazy.
So
yeah, but the problem is it's a funny statement, Stephen. I know what you're trying to allude to, right. But the issue there, of course, is who determines who's stupid and not.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen. So, I know that. It's just a wonderful theory.
But yeah, it's the same here. In Holland, we have the same guy as the prime minister for 12 years. Everybody would like to see him go, but he just stays because he's in the majority party that everybody seems to have voted for. And I'd loved proportional representation. I would have loved to have seen that in the UK, but I've actually seen it in action here. And I say always jokingly to it, because I'm not allowed to vote, so I'm allowed to say whatever I like. But I say to a lot of Dutch people, it's a bit like a horse with 3 legs. It has movement, but it goes around in circles. And what's happened is we have now, I think, something like 20 or 24 parties in Parliament, which just means that whoever's got the largest lump, can lead a coalition.
Well, it's no different than here with Republicans and Democrats, right? Whoever's the largest controls what they do. But what the problem has become over the years is like we're not out for, if you will, the good of the country or whatever country. They're out for the good of themselves and whatever they can get for their party to make it better for them more, not the people. So that's why I go back to, like my mom said before she passed away, she'd be like, there's going to be a civil war. It's coming. And I'd be like, no, you're crazy. And then after I saw what Trump kind of divided the country, I'm like, and everyone's like, oh, the election was rigged and it was this and it was that. Put that aside. Now 2024 is going to come up. So let's say it's Biden and DeSantis. Let's say DeSantis loses. Are the Republicans going to go, oh, it was fixed, it's rigged? Sure. Or if Biden if Biden wins, same thing. Like, so what happens? Like at some point, if you will, the stress is going to burst, and people are going to take to arms, and they're going to be like, enough is enough. Protests start off like with little signs going, we don't like it, we don't like it. The next thing you know, it goes little bottles and rocks. And the next thing you know, people are armed. And I live in Texas. everybody's armed. And I'm not kidding. Like 2-year-old kids strapped, like right to carry. So in some places they don't. But so what's going to happen then? Are our 50 states, as you always say, is just basically 50 little countries in one big landmass? Are we all going to just kind of separate? I mean, there's going to be a point where the dam's going to burst. That you can already see it, like with the school shootings and with just people shooting each other and the rage. And back in the day, if you didn't agree with someone, like I don't like you, I don't agree with you, you're done. Now we don't agree with you, we just shoot you. So it's getting to that point where going to arms because you don't like somebody, like 2 years ago they were going to storm one of the capitals here, they're going to kidnap the governor and all this crap. So because Trump said go do that, and they were like yay, and they foiled the plot. But these guys had M16s and all. So there's got to be a point where we just say enough's enough, and I don't know what that point is. Maybe Russia does have to release a nuclear bomb in the Ukraine for people to take notice. But the sad part is no one's going to notice. Why? Because it won't be on TikTok. It won't be on Facebook. It won't be on YouTube. It'll be nowhere. It won't be on the news. And if you have to read the paper, God forbid. And that's like, so what do we, and I'm just saying, we're a society now that is basically, we sit in front of screens and we don't interact. And I think that's part of the issue. Yeah, we descend. That's what I'm saying. So, and then you got call to arms and these games and those games where you just shoot them up and kill each other. It's an everyday thing. So how do you bring people back to like, tongue in cheek, like a kumbaya moment? Like I was telling Roll yesterday in New York City, when everyone hates everybody. Let's just be blunt, right? You're on the subway, don't bother. But when a tragedy happens, like the plane that crashed on the Hudson or 9/11, that city comes together like that. Or, the Mets or the Yankees win the World Series, or that too. Or the Rangers win the Cup. But that's the city. But I don't see that other places. Like a hurricane comes through a town in Florida and everyone's together for about a day. But New York was together for a while. And I don't see that. And I think we're pushing further and further apart. So when something bad happens, people are like, oh, it doesn't affect me. But when it does, then what are they going to do? So
you know what, Steve? Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I was just going to say what's affected me is the fact that I think we're coming very near to the end of the show, and there's lots of points.
No, we're good. We can keep going until Roll falls asleep.
There are lots of points I think which would be great to come back on.
I have a very relevant one.
Yeah. Okay, Rob.
I want to cover something quickly. We've described a whole lot of craziness in the world and stupidity and lunacy and impatience and anger and intolerance, and this reminds me of something that I wrote 20 odd years ago. It was one of the few articles I was asked to write, and the one was on radio and the theater of the mind, and the other was on, strangely enough, what I thought was the cause of the ills of the world. And it was relevant then, and it's extremely relevant now. And I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it all begins, quite frankly, with families, parenting. Yeah. That's what I think. I think this starts with the idea from functional families. That's what I genuinely think. I think if you come from a proper home where you have a proper, be it a man and a man or whatever it is, a proper marriage, and you come out of a strong family where you are loved and appreciated. If you get that from your parents, then I think we end with a shot. But I just think right now, I think they're just so many unqualified people having children who I don't think have the first clue how to raise another human being. And they're letting them loose on the world. And these people are finding their values wherever they can find them. I remember I once heard it said, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. And that's what it is. We're not, I'm sure you guys have got kids and you teach them what they need to know. I know Steve does. I don't know if I'm sure you got kids, Dave, or we haven't discussed it. I've got a son and a daughter, and I like to think they're on the straight and the narrow, and they don't buy into any of this crap that goes on, this wokeness and this being sensitive to everything and being insensitive to things that matter. They know what's important, what is valuable. They understand the value of people, and they respect other people. They don't have to agree with them, not at all. And I've said my daughter and I, we don't have fights, but we have strong debates. But the respect remains. The fellow respect for a human being remains. And I think that it sounds like what you guys are too old for, grumpy old man. It sounds like that, but I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think people do stupid crap like jump on bridges to save the planet, and then they cause a traffic jam and they go, yeah, but my cause is more important than yours. And there's a woman whose son has died because there's a traffic accident. He goes, well, greater good. And he doesn't care. He doesn't worry about other people because his cause is more important, because he's been told that. And he buys into something. And it's right across the board, whether it's removing statues or whatever. I think some of these people just pull statues down because they go, well, I got that class, then I got that class, I got an hour to kill. I'm just going to go and join that protest. That looks like good fun. We're pulling down some statue, and then we're going to go to a club, and then we're going to throw some paint on another painting, and then, hey, we're going to go have drinks. I'm not sure that people even have a clue what they're even doing. And as Steve was talking about, and we were saying, it's because we're erasing history. We're just getting rid of it. We don't like it. It tells me I have to work hard. I'll leave you with one thing. We got this one kid that we know. This is a true story. I'm not going to mention her name. One of our friends said to her, so what have you got planned? And she said, I'm not sure. And they said, well, maybe if anything that you like. And she said, well, I'm interested in interior design. Oh, good. You should, what about doing a course and, I don't know, maybe getting into some architectural studies? So she turned around to her and said, oh, it's hard. I mean, that's it. This is what people think. They go, it's hard. I don't want to do that. It's difficult. I mean, and then people might not respect my, I don't know, what I identify as. And oh my goodness, and I was always told anything worthwhile, anything truly worthwhile is really hard to do.
Yep.
That's just.
And what's really hard to do is to say goodbye to you two gentlemen today. Thank you so much for being on the show again, Rob. As ever, fantastic.
We'll be here next
Stephen,
week.
Yeah, he'll be back with us.
We'll be back next week. Yes,
and we'll be talking about K-pop.
Yeah,
and the power held out. So yay, good,
yay!
Wonderful.
Of course, we'll hang up and the power will go right out. So,
Stephen, thank you for your time today.
Always good, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Until the next time. Bye bye.